She was thrust in front of the camera before she could talk and was raised by a single mother struggling to make ends meet. Then, at the age of 6, she was cast in a film about an extraterrestrial. The Steven Spielberg production would smash box office records. It also changed the life of Drew Barrymore forever.
As I went from being 6 years old, who I felt like I had responsibilities, to being 6 years old with major responsibilities.
The young Barrymore was in grade school, West Lane.
She used to come back and tell us how she drank champagne and how she was up all night, and
His already strained relationship with her mother grew worse. Drew descended into a spiral that would find her smoking marijuana at 10 and addicted to cocaine at 13. But remarkably, Drew Barrymore survived despite the odds against her. Inheriting a family legacy of incredible talent and devastating addiction, Drew overcame a lifetime of pain and insecurity to become one of Hollywood's brightest stars. In the coming hour, you'll hear about the little girl who left home at 14.
There really was no choice at that time. I mean, she sort of did what she had to do.
And you'll learn of Drew's comeback fight to regain the industry's respect.
That was also what she was determined to do, was convince Hollywood that she, was somebody to be reckoned with.
You'll also meet the people who, from the beginning, realized Drew's special talent.
There was a quality about her where you felt that she was special. She just radiated it.
You'll hear from the director who made Drew a star in E.T.
She just blew me away. I mean, there was no second choice. I mean, Drew Barrymore was the first choice for this part.
You'll hear stories from the co-stars of that landmark movie.
Drew went and grabbed a scarf and wrapped it around E.T.'s neck and said, so he doesn't get cold because we've got to go eat lunch, and when we come back, and we've got to shoot.
And for the first time on television, you'll see exclusive behind-the-scenes footage on the set.
Isn't this fun, Drew? Making movies, isn't it fun?
Plus, you'll meet the co-stars who witnessed Drew's struggle and her success.
Drew does not care a bit when people think or say or look at her. She's just like you say, she is very comfortable with herself.
One of the things I like about her the most is that she's so not fake, and what she does is organic.
And throughout the hour, you'll hear from the buoyant, fearlessly honest survivor herself, Drew Barrymore.
I think that time in New York, I remember when I was 13, this moment where I took the stairs and I felt like my childhood took the elevator.
This is Drew Barrymore's Celebrity Profile. Drew Barrymore was born into the oldest and most respected acting family in history. It's a family steeped in talent and tragedy, a family that for over 100 years fought to escape what has been called the Barrymore curse. In December 1876, vaudevillian Maurice Barrymore wed comedienne Georgiana Drew, uniting two stage dynasties to create a sort of royal family of the American theater. Maurice and Georgiana gave birth to 3 children, Ethel, Lionel, and John. The siblings became the premier acting family of early motion pictures. John, billed as the Great Profile, was one of the most celebrated actors of the 20s and 30s, and sadly, like his father, an almost equally notorious alcoholic. Late in his life, John gave this telling interview.
The gentlemen from the newsreel have informed me that they wish to see the Barrymore profile. That is as much of it as is left. Here goes.
John Barrymore's third wife, Dolores, gave birth to 2 children, Dolores Ethel and John Jr. Capitalizing on his family name, John Jr. parlayed his good looks into a brief stint as a matinee idol, making his debut in the 1950 Western The Sundowners.
What are you doing?
Taking the shells out of this gun.
You try a bluff like that on Wichita and you won't live a second.
Wichita would never fire on me.
You want to bet?
I'll bet my life on it.
John Jr., promoted as the new Barrymore profile, had inherited his father's looks, talent, and unfortunately his taste for alcohol. John's drinking sabotaged his career, and his personal life saw 2 failed marriages. Then in 1973, John Jr. married aspiring actress Ildiko Jade. Their union was short-lived, and the couple separated before the birth of their only child. Drew Blythe Barrymore was born on February 22, 1975, at Brotman Memorial Hospital in Culver City, California. Ildiko Barrymore was now a single parent with an acting career on hold. Ildiko, who used Jade as her professional name, took a series of jobs waitressing at such places as the Troubadour on Santa Monica Boulevard. Looking to find ways to make ends meet, Jade began taking Drew on baby auditions, where fearlessness helped her nab her first job.
This is a baby, and this is a baby.
I went in for the audition, and according to the person who told me the story, there were babies hanging off the chandeliers and babies everywhere, and my mother brought me in, and I was playing with the dog. I'm supposed to be playing with the dog, and the dog bit me on the nose, and everybody sort of went, oh my God, lawsuit, and they panicked and freezed, and I started laughing, and they were like, she's hired!
More jobs quickly followed, and soon Jade found herself managing her daughter's burgeoning career. Jade enrolled Drew in Fountain Day School, a small private school in Hollywood. Drew was a natural actress right from the beginning. Teacher Clara Sardeggi remembers the production that brought Drew her first kiss.
She was a little teaser. She used to tease. And when it came to the part where St. Patrick said, now for a kiss, you'll get the gold, she sort of got close to him and said, well, are you going to or not? And he just looked at her and said, okay. And that was the first kiss.
But Drew's blossoming acting career started pushing her schoolwork to the back burner.
Every time we turn around and we used to take the morning roll call, everybody said, no, she's not here. Drew's gone again.
However, one of these absences would become the critical turning point in young Drew's life. When Celebrity Profile continues, Steven Spielberg casts Drew Barrymore in one of the biggest blockbusters of all time.
When Drew came in, she had the part the minute she stepped into the room because she began to make up these stories that she was a punk rocker.
And later, superstar 8-year-old Drew becomes a leading lady by day and a club kid by night.
In the beginning, we would go like on the weekends and stuff every weekend. And then as I got like a little bit older, I'd just go on my own every night.
Drew Barrymore was 6 years old when she was called in for an audition with Steven Spielberg for the movie Poltergeist.
He took one look at me and said, you're wrong for that movie, and I was sort of like, oh God, I'm in the wrong place.
Drew shrugged it off and started out the door, until the director suggested she read for another movie he was working on called E.T.
When Drew came in, she had the part the minute she stepped into the room because she began to make up these stories that she was a punk rocker. She had a punk rock band. She was going on the road. She was going to do an entire... She's 6 years old, and she told me that she's going to do a 20-city tour in America with her punk rock band. And then she kept making up stories, and they got bigger and bigger and bigger and wilder and wilder, and she just blew me away. I mean, there was no second choice. I mean, Drew Barrymore was the first choice for this part.
The final audition was for me to scream. And I broke the monitor, and that was it. I got hired, thank God.
Co-star Henry Thomas remembers that despite being only 6 years old, Drew acted like a veteran on the set.
She was like, how long have you been acting? You know, I'm like, well, this is I think my third thing to ever do, you know. I'm 10 years old at the time, you know. Drew was like, oh, you poor thing. You know, I've been doing this since I was a baby, since I was like 4. I've been doing this. You poor thing, she kept saying.
As this rare behind-the-scenes footage shows, there was a special bond between Drew and her director.
Isn't this fun, Drew? Making movies, isn't it fun? Uh-huh. Is this like better than just going to school and learning how to play volleyball and tetherball and stuff like that? Fun. Yeah. Do they pay you for going to school?
Dee Wallace Stone, who played Drew's mom in the film, recalls the older man in Drew's life.
She had a huge crush on Mr. Spielberg. Yeah. Oh, yeah. It was a 6-year-old, totally enamored. I remember when Drew would talk, it would be, Stephen. I mean, she would say it like that. Well, Stephen said. It was, yeah, not the other kid, not the little boys, no, but Stephen.
Drew's performance as the irrepressible Gertie nearly upstaged the adorable E.T.
What is it? He won't hurt you, Gertie. He won't hurt you, Gertie. We're not gonna hurt you. Is he a boy or a girl? He's a boy. Was he wearing any clothes? No. But look, you can't tell. Not even Mom. Why not? Because grown-ups can't see him. Only little kids can see him. Give me a break.
Drew's acting was so intense, director Steven Spielberg often had to console his young star long after the cameras were turned off, as seen in this outtake.
Movies are so sad, especially this one.
E.T. went on to gross over $300 million, becoming at the time the largest grossing film in history.
He is the cutest alien I have ever met and seen.
The phenomenal success of the film made Drew an instant celebrity, and the now 7-year-old was caught up in a whirlwind of publicity. Drew made numerous appearances on The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson, and she became the youngest person ever to host Saturday Night Live.
In the opening segment, I'm sitting in my dressing room, and they all come by to console me. Something's wrong. I don't even remember what that was. And they say, "Oh, would you like a glass of milk?" And I went, "I'm at Barrymore. Make it a drink. I'll have a drink and make it a double."
It was a comedic sketch that was eerily prophetic. Drew had her first drink at age 9 and was smoking marijuana by 10. Drew's life became an endless series of late-night parties and premieres. Drew's mother, Jade, knew that mingling with the Hollywood elite was part of the game, and the effervescent Drew was all too willing to go along.
At the time, it just seemed sort of okay. It was like, okay, this is what we're doing now.
Drew's first film after E.T. was Irreconcilable Differences. She played Casey Brodsky, a little girl trying to divorce her parents, having to grow up before her time. For Drew, the role was a little too close to home.
It felt very mature. I went from E.T. to that, and I went from a set of all kids to being the only kid. I remember that responsibility of E.T. and coming off that, and that was sort of when I started just getting into the responsibility and the maturity and work life.
Jade and Drew pulled up roots and headed to North Carolina to film Stephen King's Firestarter. The lonely Drew found a lifelong friend in stand-in Jennifer Ward, whose family virtually adopted Drew during filming.
It was like having the sister I never had, and so I ended up living with this family, the Wards, and they had a son, John, who was like my older brother, and Gail and David, the mother and father, and it was like living in a true great family for the first time in my life, and it was one of the best experiences.
Drew returned to North Carolina for production of her next film, Cat's Eye, which Stephen King had tailored especially for her. Co-star Candy Clark was struck by Drew's natural talent.
We're doing the scene and she's crying. I'm like, so at the end, when they said cut, I'm like, Gloria, how did you do that? How did you do that? How did you cry? She said, I don't know, I just did it. So even then, she was like this fantastic actress. I'm playing her mother, and I'm going over to an 11-year-old and saying, how did you do that?
Reluctantly, Drew left her relatively normal family life with the Wards and returned to the frenetic pace of Hollywood. Drew and her mother were now regularly jetting to New York for parties and premieres, where Drew was hounded by photographers wanting to snap shots of the pint-sized partier at the exclusive China Club and Studio 54.
At the time, too, when I was like 10 and 11, I felt like I was about 20, and that's exactly the time when you want to start partying. And also, because I had so many responsibilities, you tend to, at some point, want to rebel against that.
And Drew did rebel. Against her own image, against her responsibilities, and especially against her mother. As the two grew further apart, Drew's drug and alcohol abuse worsened, and as she entered puberty, Drew's self-esteem was at its worst. Her insecurities were crippling.
There was a time where I really didn't work very much. I was like a really heavy kid, and I wasn't getting that many jobs, and everything was just sort of strange and awkward, and I felt really uncomfortable in my skin.
Drew was increasingly turning to alcohol to numb her pain and defying her mother by sneaking out to party with friends, according to Todd Gold, who co-authored her autobiography.
Drew was a girl who was testing limits and looking for lots of love and affection at the same time. She was pressing for independence and trying to find out who she was.
By 12, Drew had tried cocaine. At 13, she was out of control, and Drew's relationship with her mother had reached its breaking point. One celebrity profile continues, the storm before the calm.
I started throwing things and drinking in the house.
And later, Drew comes clean to the press in a shockingly candid cover story.
I was contacted by Drew's publicist, who told me that he had a big story and asked if I could keep a secret.
By her own account, Drew Barrymore had lived a life out of control almost from the time she was 6. By age 13, drug and alcohol abuse were taking a very personal toll. During a binge on June 28, 1988, Drew called her mother and demanded that she move out of the house.
When I got home, she was there, and I was real drunk, and I got just real angry, you know, that she was there in the house. I started throwing things and drinking in the house, and so she got real fed up. She didn't want to take it anymore.
That night, Jade took 13-year-old Drew to the ASAP Family Treatment Center, a substance abuse facility in Van Nuys. Drew fought the intervention.
I was too drunk. I mean, I was like, they had to like practically carry me in there. But the minute I realized where I was and I was sober and it was the next day or whatever, I wanted out.
But Drew remained, keeping her treatment from the public and press while she struggled to regain control of her life. As Drew's recovery progressed, she was allowed a leave of absence to shoot the independent film Far From Home.
Dad, I'm not 12 years old anymore.
No, you're not. What's the problem? And keep your shirt on, take it out to the pool. Have fun!
Shooting in the remote town of Gerlach, Nevada, Drew managed to stay sober despite the cast and crew's penchant for late-night partying. Determined to beat the Barrymore curse, Drew slowly learned to change her lifestyle, leaning on her friends to get her through the rough times.
You just hang out, like normal day-to-day occurrences, go to the movies, go have breakfast, just be be friends. Like there's no, you don't think of it in terms of, gotta be Drew's support group now.
Drew's commitment to recovery paid off. A release was recommended, filling Drew with optimism. Then, on the day after she received her discharge date, a bombshell. Drew's secret torment was about to go public.
A tabloid writer had broken into the hospital I was in, and they put out this big story, and it really scared people.
In a brave move, Drew contacted People writer Todd Gold.
There was a sense of beating them to the punch with the real story. And at the same time, I think there was a very smart decision being made, which was to have Drew come clean and tell the truth.
I felt like all of a sudden I might have had the chance to relate to people. All of a sudden my aloneness, maybe I didn't have to be so alone. Maybe other people felt alone too.
The brutally honest article created a media sensation and was so therapeutic that the duo decided to collaborate on a book based on Drew's experiences.
Once Drew decided to do the book, she was convinced it was the right thing to do, and she never had any regrets. And I think she's very much the same today. Once she makes a decision, she throws herself into that and then moves on.
Though writing the book was therapeutic, Drew was still struggling to deal with the pain. The 14-year-old experienced a brief relapse in the summer of 1989 that became her darkest hour. Gold recalls meeting Drew after what was reported to be an attempt on her own life.
We were sitting in a restaurant in West Hollywood. She sticks out her arm across the table and and rolls up her sleeve and says, "See what I tried to do?" And there were scars on her wrists. And in a very Drew way, in a very mature way, she kind of put her both hands out and said, "But I'm all right. I'm even better now than before." And I was struck by the change in her.
Indeed, Drew had changed. Day by day, she was getting stronger.
I think her respect for herself finally was the thing, you know, that people realized, my God, this person just has so much respect, self-respect.
Drew made a series of critical changes, which included moving out of her mother's house. She was only 14.
That was sort of the end of it, to tell you the truth. That was, you know, we just went in our separate ways and had to go and live different lives, and that's okay. I think society puts a lot of pressure on you that you have to love your family, and I think you do have to love your family. It doesn't mean you have to spend all your time with them.
Whether she wanted to move out at the time or not, or whether it was the right thing to do or worked out better or not, there really was no choice at that time.
Now sober and on her own, Drew decided it was time to go back to work. The question was, would Hollywood take her back?
Very quietly, I worked in coffee houses, and I, you know, got an apartment, and I lived on my own, and I didn't have a car, and I would get myself to auditions, and I understood the trepidations at first, and the sort of, do you feel lucky to be here? I totally did. I got it.
And when it came to being a waitress, like any true Barrymore, Drew improvised.
She said that people would come in and ask her, you know, for this, that, and the other, and she just really wouldn't have a clue what they were talking about. She just sort of make them some concoction, I think, of maybe even her own choosing.
Yeah, I thought she was just like hanging out there
Smoking
with friends
cigarettes.
or something. I didn't know she actually had a job there.
Realizing the service industry wasn't her cup of tea, Drew hung up her coffee pot and hit the audition trail. She was determined to rebuild her acting career and eventually landed a co-starring role in the CBS school break special, 15 and Getting Straight. In a strange twist of fate, Drew seemed to be playing herself.
I'm Susan Lapidus. I'm 15. I'm an addict alcoholic, bulimic. I was brought to the hospital a week ago because I was hemorrhaging. Then I transferred here. No one asked my permission.
Although they were a far cry from the big studio movies of her childhood, Drew auditioned and won roles in a string of low-budget films. There was a buzz in Hollywood that Drew was back and ready to work.
And eventually, word gets around town that you're doing well, you're doing good on your auditions. That led to another audition, and that audition led to someone talking to another person who was doing a low-budget film called Poison Ivy. And that was my first film back.
When Celebrity Profile returns, Drew Barrymore shatters Hollywood's narrow perceptions and turns a B-movie role into a major career comeback.
I was like, oh, I don't know. You know, the last time because I grew up here, the last time I'd seen Drew, she was like dancing on a tabletop somewhere in some club.
And later, Drew reveals a whole new side of herself.
I was just free and having a really good time.
Released on May 8, 1992, Poison Ivy served notice that Drew Barrymore definitely wasn't a little girl anymore. The role of sexy, manipulative Ivy was a major departure for Drew. Co-star Tom Skerritt remembers Drew's determination.
What she was presenting to me personally and professionally was a representation of someone who's going to overcome whatever problems she had. And she understood that, which was unique.
Flush with confidence from her successful star turn in Poison Ivy, Drew went after her next role with gusto. Determined to get an audition for the independent film Gun Crazy, Drew tracked down director Tamara Davis.
And then what was so amazing was Drew called me personally. She called me on the phone while I was casting, and you know, I answered, and she said, this is Drew Barrymore. I read this script, and you have to see me. I love this character more than anything. I have to play this character.
Davis had heard the old rumors about Drew and reluctantly agreed to meet with her.
I just met with her, and I just completely couldn't get her out of my mind. I drove home from the interview totally in love with her, just madly in love with her. She completely bewitched me.
critics praised Drew's portrayal of an abused girl on the run.
I'll never forget Vincent Canby really just singled out her performance in the film and said, this is the kind of performance that makes a star. And, you know, I'm sure that must have made her feel great. It made me feel really proud of her.
Drew had hit bottom and fought her way back. She enjoyed renewed critical respect and won a Golden Globe nomination for Best Actress. She was interviewed moments after the nominations were announced.
Nothing like this has ever happened to me. I know that we're all shocked. I'm shocked most of all, and I'm really grateful.
Drew made a rare foray into television to star in 2000 Malibu Road, a nighttime soap directed by Joel Schumacher. Joel recalls the first time he met Drew.
I was sitting in a restaurant in Beverly Hills and with my friends, and there was a tug at my sleeve, and this, you know, exquisite 8 or 9-year-old child was standing there, and it was Drew Barrymore, and she said, "Hi, I love your movie. I've seen it 50 times and I know every word." And I was so undone by this beautiful child. So we've stayed kind of friendly, and so I was able to call her up and ask her to be in the show.
The series was an instant smash, but due to the expensive cast, CBS let their option lapse. Drew's television work peaked when she played the controversial part of Amy Fisher, the Long Island Lolita.
She was the best Amy Fisher.
Yes,
Nobody can fight that at all. You know, it was brilliant because she went and had speech lessons. I remember all of her speech lessons that she took because that's a gnarly accent.
You know, and if you need some time because it's Christmas and stuff, I understand. Just don't say it's over. Don't say it's over. Don't ever say it's over.
And America was watching. Drew's portrayal destroyed the competing 2 Amy Fisher movies in the ratings race. Now in demand, Drew chose the Western Bad Girls as her return to the big screen. Drew and her co-stars were sent to hone their bad girl skills at a cowboy camp.
This was not a case that Drew could ride. This was Lily could ride. And Drew had to learn to, you know, learn to ride so that Lily could come to life, which was very, very difficult because I couldn't even mount the horse when we got there.
Stunt coordinator Walter Scott recalls Drew's drive.
But she came on, I think the youth really worked there too, you know, she came right on and mastered it.
She looked the coolest, actually. Drew, to her credit, she just always looked the coolest. She always like could draw and look sexy. I was like, man, what are you doing? How do you get away with it?
Coming up on Celebrity Profile, Drew's career instincts leave audiences screaming for more.
If you kill Drew Barrymore, you know, in the opening minutes of your movie, who knows where this movie's going to go.
But first, Drew makes headlines again, this time with her surprising 5 a.m. wedding in a Hollywood bar.
And the important thing is if you have to go through hell, and literal hell, I hope that you come out of it having learned something, and I really did.
While the difficult production of Bad Girls confirmed Drew Barrymore's determination, the rest of 1995 became a testament to Drew's spontaneity. On March 20th, just after 2 a.m. in a dark alley near Hollywood Boulevard, 19-year-old Drew Barrymore asked 31-year-old Jeremy Thomas to marry her. The couple had been dating for 6 weeks. Like the courtship, the wedding itself was far from traditional. It took place in Thomas's dimly lit Hollywood bar, The Room, and the service was performed by a psychic private detective minister from the Los Angeles Yellow Pages.
I'll say this, it was very, very early in the morning. We were very tired at that wedding.
Less than 6 weeks later, Drew filed for divorce, citing, ironically, irreconcilable differences.
We all have to experience a few things in life that are so strangely painful. And that was one for me. And the important thing is if you have to go through hell, and literal hell, I hope that you come out of it having learned something. And I really did. And that is absolutely my redemption in that experience.
Also in 1995, having apparently conquered her body image problems, Drew took it off for the March issue of Playboy magazine. As usual, Drew didn't think twice.
I'm glad that I'll be older one day and looking back at things on fondness, with fondness, instead of going, oh, I just missed that boat. I didn't get to do that.
Later that year, Drew made headlines again, this time for impulsively stripping on stage while with friends at the Manhattan club, the Blue Angel. The next night, Drew recreated the routine as a birthday present for talk show host David Letterman.
It's an act that we do, and he's Dick Haney, the world's funniest comedian. But the whole joke is he's actually so bad.
Right.
But it is funny.
That's right.
So
I understand.
bad.
Sure. It's the old switcheroo.
Exactly. Exactly. And I'm Lolita.
You're Lolita.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I come out there, and I sort of, would you like me to do a dance for you?
What?
Hi, Paul. Paul, give me some moves.
While Drew's body was steaming up the small screen, Drew's talent was burning up the big screen with roles in a series of big studio movies with A-list talent. The sleeper hit Boys on the Side showcased Drew in a film that brought together 3 accomplished actresses and explored serious emotional themes. Drew's co-star was Mary Louise Parker.
Because from the minute I met, like when Drew walked in, she was just, I mean, I don't know if you've met her yet, but she's so sweet that you almost think she's kidding. I mean, she's so sweet and she's so beautiful and so talented and she's just a dear person.
And Whoopi Goldberg's first thoughts were pure Whoopi.
Boy, am I old. That was my first raw impression. Boy, am I old, and I'm never going to have Drew's body.
Soon, Drew was doing her first of 2 films with then-newcomer Chris O'Donnell. Mad Love featured Drew as an institutionalized girl finding love for the first time. Chris recalls that Drew really identified with her character.
There were a couple of scenes that I didn't realize Drew had experiences that were so similar, and when she told me, it was really felt for her because, you know, it became very real.
And Drew had another surprise in store for O'Donnell.
Yeah, and just
You did
like...
a stint in a nightclub strip joint?
Yeah, you didn't hear about that?
No.
Oh, yeah, well...
Wait a second. Where was I?
You were, I don't know, it was in New York. You should have come, it was really fun.
Jeez, I want an invite next time.
Yeah, you'll get one.
The friendship between Chris and Drew would continue through their next collaboration, Batman Forever. The media had a field day with Drew's saucy new image. She was featured on dozens of magazine covers. Top photographers clamored for her, and Guess Clothing even made her its celebrity poster girl, a childhood fantasy come true for the once insecure Drew.
I mean, that's like every person's fantasy, is to dress up and put on makeup and hair and model. I mean, we all do it in front of the mirror. At least I admit it, I do it.
When Celebrity Profile returns, one of Drew's biggest dreams comes true.
That was the greatest thing that has ever happened in my life.
And a surprising interview with one of Drew's closest friends, Courtney Love.
There's just something really special that I really trust about her that I don't. It's very rare. I don't see it in a lot of people.
From Boys on the Side to Batman Forever, 1995 found Drew Barrymore working with some of the biggest names in the business. But it was away from the set in Seattle while filming the movie Mad Love that Drew met one of her closest friends, Courtney Love.
There's just something really special that I really trust about her that I don't. It's very rare. I don't see it in a lot of people.
The two met while Drew was dating Eric Erlandson, the guitarist from Love's band, Hole.
Well, one of the things I like about her the most is that she's so not fake. And what she does is organic. It's what she wants to do. She responds to what's in her gut to do. And I love that. There's no planning. There's no contrivance. It's not like, I'm going to reinvent myself now.
Rather than reinvent herself, Drew spent most of 1996 building her eclectic film resume. First came Everyone Says I Love You, featuring Drew playing against her public perception as an upper-class Manhattanite with co-star Edward Norton.
I don't think on some level some people would have picked her for this. You know, I think when we started this her hair was purple or something. But she put that little wig on and all of a sudden you go, oh, she's a Barrymore.
Oh, that's sweet.
But remember, you've been very deprived of female contact.
I used to lie in my cell at night and dream of somebody like you.
Yeah. Oh, I took a criminology class at college. A very
That very sensual lips.
Oh, well, it's a part of me I rarely think of.
Can I smell your hair?
You want to smell my hair? Okay.
That was the greatest thing that has ever happened in my life, was getting to work with Woody Allen. I couldn't believe every time he walked through the door. It was like a dream.
When Woody Allen asked her as an adult to be in one of his movies, I think it made her feel like all of the work she's been doing was validated.
Drew's next movie was another 180-degree turn. Her brief appearance in Scream helped make the low-budget horror film one of the biggest hits of 1996. But Drew's extended cameo wasn't a coincidence.
She knew it. Drew's got a great instinct for this business. It's amazing. And she knew that horror movies would be the next rage, and she knew that Scream was gonna hit.
I thought people would like that movie. I really did. I thought people would like it because I just liked it so much. I read the script and I just thought this movie is really fun.
Drew recognized Scream's potential right from the start, says Miramax co-chairman Harvey Weinstein.
And I tell you, the great thing about Drew was when we were first putting together Scream, she signed on without a director, without anything. She just signed on right on the script.
Director Wes Craven says Drew's performance in the film was key to its appeal.
As soon as people see Drew Barrymore in a film, they think this is the star of the film. So to see 15 minutes in the movie, instead of escaping, she suddenly is nailed. You know, it's like, oh my God.
Nightmare on Elm Street.
Is that the one where the guy had knives for fingers?
Yeah, Freddy Krueger.
Freddy, that's right. I like that movie. It was scary.
Wow, well, the first one was, but the rest sucked.
So, you got a boyfriend?
Why? You want to ask me out on a date?
Maybe. Do you have a boyfriend?
No.
You never told me your name.
Why do you want to know my name?
I want to know who I'm looking at.
What did you say?
Drew's gamble paid off. Scream went on to gross over $100 million at the box office.
She understands the business, and she and her production company, I think, will develop fantastic projects and make fantastic movies. She's going to be a great producer, Drew.
Capitalizing on her producing instincts, Drew formed her own production company, Flower Films.
It's great because it's about being in charge of your own life and in charge of your own destiny and trying to make things happen and making it a good experience, working with good people, trying to develop good material.
I think that it was a natural progression if you think of her having been in the business for well over 20 years, which she has, and we forget that because of her youth.
They have just taken over Hollywood. They terrorize everyone. It's great. You know, you just think like, little Drew, can she get it together? They have like fab offices, totally efficient. It's inspiring. Like, I go up there for advice.
When Celebrity Profile returns, Drew airs her dirty linens in public, this time for a good cause.
5 years ago, I bet your mom burned one of these in protest.
My mom's bigger than that.
Okay, forget the bras. We're trying to change the world.
She's just great. She's a great friend. She's a great person to have around in the world. I'm glad she's here.
Drew Barrymore, the precocious little girl from E.T., has grown up. She's endured instant stardom, overcome crippling addiction, and engineered a remarkable comeback that has made her one of Hollywood's brightest stars. And despite her hectic schedule, Drew has found time to support worthwhile causes. A favorite charity is the Wildlife Way Station, an animal rescue organization in Los Angeles.
They really put their bases out all over the world, and so they constantly need funding.
Drew has also been named National Chairwoman for the Female Health Foundation.
They not only fund research, but individual patients and clinics all around the world. And they work with the female condom.
This is simple. Communication is the key. What did you do to protect yourself today? Have the female condom. If some fatal disease did fall upon you, how simple all of a sudden it would be to have protected yourself.
She's also a celebrity spokesperson for Rock the Vote.
Okay, look, David, women make up over half the world's population, and it's time we make some decisions, and not just what's for dinner.
Drew, you know what they say about a woman's place?
Yeah. It's in the voting booth.
Drew's commitment to worthy causes can be traced to the gratitude she has for her own turnaround. It's a turnaround that has seen Drew rebuild her career and helped Drew come to terms with her relationship with her mother.
I knew that she always wanted me to do this because she allowed me to do it from the time I was 11 months old when I did that Gainsburger Puppy Chow commercial. And I know she got scrutinized a lot when I was younger for having me and acting so young, but the truth is, if she hadn't done that, I wouldn't be sitting in this chair right now doing this interview. So in some saintly way, she gave me my life, and I appreciate that very much.
Drew Barrymore has reason to be thankful. For in the end, Drew has more than survived. She's flourished.
It's almost as if it was necessary for her to get there and go through it to get where she is today.
If she did have a set plan, you think we'd know about it? I think not.
There's so few people that are grateful to be where she is, and when you work with people that are humble and grateful to be on the set and to be grateful for their career, that really means a lot in this business.
She's just full of laughter and hugs and concern for animals and capacity to